You're tuning in to Floridian Rollo. You are tuning in to Floridian Rollo. I'm your host, Floridian Rollo, coming at you with another live stream. This is a very important topic, you know, and shout out to the people, to the brethren, the sisterin. Know that I advocate for Florida, and this is a good topic to discuss, being that I am a Floridian. So let's get to it. So what I'm going to explain to y'all is there's another hurricane going on right now called Hurricane Milton. And what I want to explain to y'all is this. If you're thinking about moving to Florida or having property or business, it's one thing to visit. Now living there, because y'all know I lived there for a certain amount of time. I'm going back down there real soon. West Florida, which is consists of Keystone, Saratoga, Tampa, Tallahassee, as you see on the map. So you have southeast of Miami, right? That's the southeast border of Florida. And then you got Key West and all that, you name it. So the west of Florida, from Tallahassee down to, whatchamacallit, Fort Myers, what happens is when a hurricane, it comes from Cuba, in the middle of Cuba, Cancun, Mexico. Sometimes it comes from Mexico from the west, or it comes from Cuba and shapes at a certain angle, and it goes to West Florida. Now, if you live in Central Florida, if you live in Northeast Florida, which is consists of Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Daytona, Palm Coast, Pompona Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Capona, excuse me, by the Northeast, Middle East, Central Florida, you would not be dealing with the hurricane as if you are in West Florida. So what y'all need to do is understand West Florida get hit the hardest, which is Tampa, which is Saratoga, which is Key West, which is Tallahassee. And, because the way it shifts from Cuba, or it comes from Jamaica or Mexico, wherever it comes from, as you're going to see here as I play it, that's the hurricane they're talking about right now. See, it's coming from Mexico, and it's going to go under Daytona Beach. It's not going to hit Central Florida, meaning Orlando. So it's showing you where it's going to come from. It always come more likely from Tallahassee to Key West to Fort Myers, as I stated. And see how strong it is? It'd be a category 3. So by the time it landfalls towards Central Florida or Daytona, it goes to a category 1. So if you live in Tampa, if you live in Saratoga, if you live in Fort Myers, if you live in Miami for the most part, or Key West, that's where it gets hit the hardest. So when you live in Jacksonville, or you live in, say, Augustine, or you live in Palm Coast, or you live in Daytona, for the most part, you're just going to see torrential rain. Now, I will say this. There are certain parts of Florida where you might see a flood contention. What a flood contention means is that the water might be at a rise. However, the drainage system in Central Florida, parts of North Florida, are very organized compared to the west side of Florida. You would not want to live. It's the most beautiful side of Florida, yet when it comes to storms, they get hit the hardest. Let me explain why. You have a lot of people from Louisiana, right? Not all Louisianas are crazy or wicked. However, you have a lot of Louisianas, Chicagoans, you have a lot of people that do things that's abnormal. And so the Most High have to clear a lot of that energy, a lot of those things that they're trying to do to the people. Because Florida, by far, is one of the most attractive states in America. It's one of the most funnest place to be in, business-wise. Now, most people that live by the shore, by the beach, what they do is they have this thing to where the water don't hit their homes. They have adjusted their homes. So you don't hear too much about home drownage in Florida like you did back in the days. They have made adjustments. Now in West Florida, a lot of people might be underwater, unfortunately. Yet when you go to Central Florida, Orlando, you have. Let me give you a Florida map, for example. Hold on one second. Let's do that. Florida map. Give y'all something. Let me give you some key places. Florida map, right? Let's do this. Can we zoom this in? Can we zoom this in? View image. Okay. Okay, we could do it like this. Yeah, hold on. Let me get something different. Because these are the counties. I know the counties to an extent. Let me do something better. Hold on one second. I want to give y'all the names because I know the counties. Y'all going to get confused with the counties. Give me 1 second. Let's get there we go. We could deal with this. Okay, I'm going to show y'all right now what's going on. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me go back to my StreamYards. Okay. Let's get to it. Let me show y'all the map. All right. Okay. All right, so you see my arrow right here. This is the Gulf of Mexico. You see the Gulf of Mexico, right? So what happens is, depending on where it's coming from, it always curls to the west. So you got Tallahassee, which is northwest of Florida. You have, Spring Hill, Clearwater, Logo, St. Petersburg. Logo, by the way, is one of the most beautiful places. Saratoga. You have Port Charlotte. You have what is called Punta Cana, Cap Coral. And then you have Fort Myers right here. Fort Myers. If you can see them, let me get Fort Myers for you. Let me give it in more. So Fort Myers, right? So it may go sometimes to Key West, the Florida Keys. It goes up here. It goes to Naples, Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, Saratoga, St. Petersburg, Tampa, Clearwater, which I've been to Clearwater. I've been to Largo. I've been to St. Petersburg, Tampa, Lakeland. I've been to Brighton, almost near Saratoga. The point is right here. This is West Florida. The Cedar Keys is called. That's where the hurricane gets hit the most, right? And that's where the port, the port, they talk about the port. Yeah, and a lot of ships go through there. Anywho, so this right here gets hit the hardest. Now, this is where y'all see me over here by Orlando, Comiskey, Winter Haven, Lake Wales. That's what's considered Bartow. That's what's considered Avon Park. That's what's considered Central Florida. So anywhere from Orlando, Dade City, Comiskey, Winter Haven, Lake Wales, Bartow, Avon Park is considered Central Florida. It rains a lot, yet it don't get, the category goes low. So what I'm trying to say is the high category is always West Florida. I would not advise to move to West Florida. If you're going to move to West Florida, you're going to have to know that the hurricanes is a high category. And the reason for that, as I'm going to show you, if you go, that's the Florida state map. This is Pensacola. So after Pensacola is Louisiana. So a lot of the Louisianas brung Hurricane Katrina and moved westward and still do the things that they was doing in Louisiana, they do in West. So Florida is known for hurricanes, not as much as people think they are. And ever since I've been in Florida, we had one account hurricane. You know what I'm saying? I got to experience it. And I'm going to tell you, it's not as bad as you think it is. However, I would not suggest you to move to West Florida. Central Florida, anywhere from Daytona to Armour Beach to Palm Coast, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, the beach side, I drove through there so many times. And one thing I learned is they give you what is called different flags. So they coordinate. So if it's green on the driveway, it's good. If it's yellow, it's moderate, it's fluctuated. If it's red, they give you the warning not to drive along the beach roads, okay? So my point is, the best places to move to, if you are concerned about hurricane, is Orlando, it's Daytona, it's any of these places that I'm showing. Now, you got to look at Miami. Look how crowded. There's not enough space, because I've been to Palmetto Beach, Hollywood, West Miami, or Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale. And I could tell you by being down there, it's more closed in. When you go upwards of Florida, it's more space. So the water in Central Florida, the water system is good. And when you go to northeast, or the Middle East, we call it in Florida, the Daytona, Armour, Palm, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, it's more spread wide open. So in certain parts of St. Augustine, you might see a flood because certain water systems are old. However, they have made adjustments. The point I'm trying to say is, surprisingly, y'all, Florida is not the biggest hit hurricane over the last 5 years. It's more so upwards that have gotten more damage of the recent hurricane, unfortunately, than it did in Florida. It's just that West Florida got hit the hardest. So what I'm going to do is show you some news on it right now. So we're going to go right back to this situation, because I want y'all to get an understanding of why it's important to know not to move to West Florida. Central Florida, North, East Florida, Tallahassee, and the other part you could move to. However, they do get some damage from time to time. So move to Central Florida, Northeast Florida, and if you're thinking about Southeast Florida, look at the suggestions of the place you're going to move to. All right. Let me go back to this again. Shout out to everybody that want me to talk about this. You brothers and sisters. Appreciate the message. So I'm going to show you some once again. So it's a Category 5. That's very high. When it touched base to Tampa, as the Hurricane Milton tracker shows, we're going to see it again. Pay attention. It goes to a 3. And then once it reaches towards Central Florida and Daytona, under Daytona, it goes to a 1. 1 is just rain. So more likely, southeast, the whole east side of Florida is going to get rain, and the west side of Florida is getting more of the damage. Okay? What, 2 years ago, it was the west side of Florida, that was flooded out, and it took them almost 6 months to a year to get it back to normal, and now they're going through it somewhat again. So always remember, the hurricane starts off the west. I would not suggest to move to the west. That's not to say that people that move to the west don't know what they're getting themselves into. It's just for people who thought about moving to Florida or thinking about moving to Florida in the future. The west side of Florida is where the rain hits the most. Not central, not northeast. Sometimes southeast gets theirs. Yet it's more so the west side of Florida. Everybody will tell you the west side of Florida get hit the hardest. You speak to any actual Floridians, they'll tell you that, especially Key West. So you see Cuba in the map, right? So I want you to understand that they're the ones who go through a lot more of the policy. Now let's talk about the insurance policy, because, to get a home, it costs a lot, right? And you got to have insurance policy and HOA and all that. I could tell you this. They have more things to make sure your home don't get affected. From my experience, the most that could happen is if you don't have a generator, your lights might be off for a couple of days, maybe 2 days. Because one thing about the electricity in the grid in Florida is better suited to deal with certain capacity in comparison to Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. From experience speaking to people from different states visiting or may stay for a little bit, and me doing my research, Florida has the best grid in the long haul. Because when it was a time when the lights was off, it was only off for about 24 hours. And the next thing you know, within 36 hours, them guys was on the poles and got because we see certain parts of Florida has they got their electricity underground. However, if it's a little bit of too much water, they have it to whereas the water separates from the electricity. So if it gets hard, they will get to fix it. It may take time. However, you got to ask yourself this question, right? Why is it that people know this and will still move there? Let's get to it right now. Let's go to a video. Hold on 1 second. Let me do something here. Give me 1 second. Let's talk about this. Let's see what they're saying.
You can set up reliable.
Let's see what part of Florida they're talking about.
In minutes.
Death toll from Hurricane Helene is rising, with at least 120 people reported dead from the powerful storm across 6 states.
And here in the Sunshine State, recovery efforts continue after the system hit Florida's Big Bend as a monster Category 4. Local 10's Christian De La Rosa has been covering Helene for nearly a week now and joins us live now from Horseshoe Beach with a look at the cleanup efforts happening there. Christian.
That's the west side of Florida, y'all. That's the west side of Florida. And as I stated, the west side of Florida gets hit more with the hurricane than Central Florida or North Florida or Southeast Florida for the most part. Let's hear what he says.
Calvin, Nicole, this might be some of the worst we have seen, whether it's here or across the street. There is destruction everywhere. And now people are asking themselves, is it really worth rebuilding?
This floor belongs to another home. Jack Cook and his 7-year-old grandson Holden show us what's left of their church. Members of Horseshoe Beach Baptist had just finished rebuilding from Hurricane Idalia just over a year ago.
Everything we did in it was for nothing. We had been in the sanctuary 3 Sundays.
Hurricane Helene delivered a knockout punch here. And days after the storm, people are still counting their losses.
Were you expecting this at all?
I didn't think it was going to push it off the foundation.
Selena McCall is back at her home with her kids, trying to salvage what she can.
In Adelia, our house did not flood at all.
Almost every home
Adelia is in West Florida, y'all. That's West Country, Florida. That's out there, not too far. If I'm not mistaken, it's northwestward of Tampa. Or yeah, it has to be northwestward of Tampa. I could be wrong. Somebody let me know in the comment section. The point is, this is out in the country burbs. I call it the country burbs, okay? Let's continue.
home up and down Main Street is damaged, flattened, or can't be found. The storm surge was so strong it blasted through walls.
This is the thing. I would not suggest you to have a trailer. I would not advise you to have a church that is built from a trailer. You have to have a home that is going to be more up to date, so to say. Because even if it's not a hurricane and you are in these type of conditions, you are prone to have a more disaster than the person who has a home foundation strong. You get what I'm saying? Let's continue.
Clearly, this is heavy.
Extremely. Yep.
What hurts the most about all this?
Well, it's just hard to understand. You question yourself, and you.
Yeah, so if you live by the alligators, if you live by the lake, you are prone to get hit. However, not every home gets hit. That's why it's important to keep your home updated, especially if you right by the shore. And like I stated before, being in Daytona, being in St. Augustine and all these beaches, I know by being there how they make the beaches current not hit the homes as much as they used to. Because the thing with the west side of Florida is they don't believe in adjusting. Whereas in Central Florida or Northwest Florida and somewhat Southeast Florida, they're making adjustments. Especially, you got to understand, there's a lot of people moving in, right? And they haven't learned about the trilogies of what is to do in the South. So my suggestion is, if you are, not to say concerned, if you are more so want to know what places to be, Central Florida, the places I named, or northeast of the inline or somewhat away from the inline. And if you do Fort Lauderdale, you want to be away from the beach, because it's the more lower you go in Florida, basically what I'm saying, the more lower you go in Florida, the high density of you dealing with floods and hurricane is more syringe than as higher you go up in Florida, if that makes sense. Let's continue.
You want to ask God why you do it, but that's for him to know and us to find out. There's some purpose behind it. So
Finding her purpose in the midst of this disaster is Lacey Cole.
And that's one thing about Floridians that a lot of states don't give credit for. They look out for their people. Even through the midst of the storm, they look out for their people. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I have no issues with that. So that's one of the reasons why I can relate to that place more than anything. Every place gonna have something you ain't gonna like or you may not be into. At the same time, what you're seeing right here, you don't really see that much in other states for the most part. Let's go.
Oh, so what do we got here?
hamburgers and hot dogs.
She says she started grilling to ease the pain.
The ones that you love losing everything they've ever worked for. I love it because.
And there is so-called black folks that do it too. It's just that we're going through the situation of me explaining what's going on in West Florida. You have different ethnicities in West Florida. At the same time, other ethnicities look out for one another. It just so happens they showing this. I got other footage coming up.
They find comfort here, so it's something they can come here and eat and talk about stuff, so it helps them out.
All right, let me go to the next footage. I appreciate y'all tuning in. How you doing, Lady D Davis? Golden, what's going on? Thanks for those viewing in the clouds. I'm going to type something in. Let me give y'all best places to live in Florida by hurricane. Let's see what they say. Let's see if I come up with a video. I'm gonna let this lady talk to y'all, okay? All right. She is from Florida. Her name is Kathy Williams, Orlando Real Estate. So we're gonna listen to what she has to say. All right. Give y'all ladies perspective. All right, hold on one second. All right, y'all, let's get to this clip. Get to a credible source. All right. Here we go. Fair use, fair use.
Hurricane-prone areas in Florida. Believe me, I would be asking the same thing if I was moving to Florida. Where can I live that I'm not going to be hit by a dang hurricane? The storm surge, the high winds, the potential for tornadoes, the flooding. There are so many things to be concerned with about hurricanes. So today we're going to break down the least and the most hurricane-prone areas.
I want y'all to listen to her. She's going to say the same thing I'm saying. Now, she's more well enough to talk about it because she's from there. I spoke on my opinion. I want y'all to hear her opinion. She's a real estate agent, so she has to deal with these type of questions. Here we go.
What do you think they'll be? Comment below. Are they above sea level? Are they below sea level? Is Florida...
Okay, so now you see the blue lines. Y'all see the blue lines, right? Pay attention.
sinking? Because that affects flooding. That affects how much water is going to get into your home if a hurricane were to hit your town. And these are valid concerns, so let's talk about it. Hi there, I'm Kathy Williams, your relocation expert in Orlando, Florida with Compass Florida and Team Williams. And if you're looking to move to Florida and you're concerned or curious as to what areas to live in where you might have the worst case scenario or best case scenario in a hurricane. As we know, just recently, Florida was hit so hard by Hurricane Ian, the Cape Coral area,
Cape Coral, which is West Florida. Cape Coral, which is West Florida in 2022. Okay? West Florida get hit the hardest, not Central Florida, not Northeast Florida, and at times Southeast Florida and the Key West get hit because the hurricane always swerves to the west. Very rarely it goes into the east, into Florida. It always goes to the west because of the Louisiana situation. You got to understand something. When Katrina happened, right? Back in the days, the hurricanes used to go all the way, always go to Louisiana, and at times go to Florida. Why is it hitting West Florida? Because of a lot of the Louisianas, the things that they are into, which you're not supposed to be into. Me and Brainwaves talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to touch base on it. So basically, West Florida, they dibble and dabble into different things, not necessarily the Floridians, it's the people that's moving into West Florida, because West Florida is a lot more what people would consider cheaper to buy land, to buy homes. So the governor, not DeSantis, the governor before DeSantis made a deal with the governor of whoever Louisiana was at the time to bring in some people from Katrina and give them homes in Florida, just like in Houston. And it has ups and bit of uptick. If you notice, Louisiana don't get hit that much with hurricanes. So when you bring people from that particular state or Chicago or different situations, what you are assessing is you agree with certain things the Most High may not agree with. Because all in all, despite all the hurricanes, despite all the things that goes on in that state, it's by far the most beautiful state in America. It's the most beautiful state in America. That's why it's number one economics. That's why it's a number one attraction. Because while it does, people do be concerned about that. I wouldn't be concerned about that. I would be more so like, okay, every place have something going on. Which one you choose to deal with? I love the warm climate. Me personally, I love the warm climate. So I know me loving the warm climate, it may come with a hurricane, it may come with rain. You have to deal with nature. Y'all think about hurricanes so much, you don't realize you got to deal with nature. You got to deal with snakes. You got to deal with crocodiles. You got to deal with spiders. You got to deal with black bears. Dogs will be coming at you. And even in certain cities, the dogs are allowed to be not on a leash. There's a lot of things that comes with being in Florida. It's just it's like being in another country for the most part. Florida is like considered being in another country. And when you drive in certain locations, you know, okay, I got to get a certain vehicle for a particular day. And you must pay attention to the weather a lot more. Yet, for the most part, the places that get hit the hardest is West Florida. Let's hear what she says, though.
Naples, Fort Myers, those areas were just blasted with Category 4 hurricane winds. And they are sitting at 3 feet above sea level. So
3 feet above sea level. Did you hear that? I just talked about it. 3 feet above sea level. That's low. That's not good. So the west side of Florida is 3 feet above sea level. Okay? Did y'all hear that? Did you hear what the lady just said? So the more red it is, the more lower it is. And if you look at the southeast, right? Hold on, darn it. Hold on, y'all. If you look at the southeast of Florida, look how big red it is. When you see big red, y'all, that means it is very below sea level. It's almost below sea level. So you got the southeast, right? I'm not trying to hit that pinpoint yet. You have the southeast above, below, almost below sea level. It's 3 feet above. This is about 2 feet above. This is about 3 feet above throughout the whole west, all the way to Tallahassee. Now, when you go towards Orlando, you good. Gadsville, Lakeland. Lakeland is not bad. You could move to West Lakeland. That's west side of, Florida, Orlando. Now, when you deal with Daytona and Palm Coast, it is 7 feet above sea level. Okay? Anywhere from Daytona up to Jacksonville is 7 feet. So even if it's a Category 2 or Category 3, you may see floods in certain spots. You will not see homes going underwater or destruction. as much as you will see in southeast Florida and throughout the west line of Florida. All right, let's continue.
At 3 feet above sea level. So you can see why they had a huge storm surge. So let's start with the worst areas, the areas that statistically get hit the hardest with hurricanes. And I'm also tying it in with the distance above sea level that the area is. To give you an idea of the range of the distance above sea level that Florida has, there's quite a range. The lowest points would be in the Florida Keys and Miami.
Florida Keys and Miami
at about 3 or 4 feet above sea level.
3 to 4 feet above sea level. Let's hear what she says.
And the highest point in Florida is Britton Hill, which is 345 feet above sea level. It's up in the Panhandle near Destin. And you won't need a Sherpa to climb it, but it's definitely the highest area. Interestingly enough, one of the most hurricane-prone areas is the Panhandle, specifically the northwest area of the Panhandle.
Northwest of the Panhandle, Tallahassee, Walton Beach, Pensacola. I told y'all about that. And Panama City Beach and Destin and all that. I told y'all. Northwest. So she's agreeing with Rollo. Let's continue.
So the Panhandle has passed every other state with its total of 66 hurricanes since 1851. By the way, 1851 is when they started really documenting hurricanes. So even though there is an extremely high point in the Panhandle, most of it is actually closer to sea level at 3 to 10 feet above sea level and at the coast.
So it's showing you, she's showing you Northwest got hit the hardest, okay? Now it's starting to pick up on the west side of Florida over the last 2 years or so. Let's continue.
And then higher as you go inland, of course. Now, the second most hurricane-prone area is, not surprising, Southwest Florida.
There it is, Southwest Florida. There it is. Those who's tuning in, everything she's saying, this is my first time watching her. Rollo's saying it. She's saying it. All right? Let's continue.
A total of 49 hurricanes. The most recent hurricane was Hurricane Andrew in 1992. It was a Category 5. It hit Miami so hard, it actually created new building codes for South Florida because
new building codes for South Florida. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all not hear me talk about them building up better situations? Hey, we on the same page. Let's continue.
Because of Hurricane Andrew. And so Miami sits at 4 feet above sea level.
4 feet above sea level. I told y'all that.
So storm surge threat is real. Not all parts of Florida are equally as prone to hurricanes, though. Some of the least prone areas in Florida is along the northeast coast of Florida.
What did I say? What I say? What I said? What I said? Northeast Florida is not prone to hurricanes. That is Daytona, that is Palm Coast, that is St. Augustine, that is Jacksonville, and it's showing you all the counties. What did I say? Northeast Florida. Central Florida is the place to move to. That's where the least amount of situations happen. She's going to explain. Let's continue.
That area has seen just 26 hurricanes, which makes it least prone because it sits on cooler waters and has a cooler climate than South.
It has a cooler water and cooler climate. That is true. It's cooler as you go upwards. When you get to Daytona to Jacksonville, the water is not as rowdy as it is when you go to southeast or the west side of Florida. When I went to the beach in Clearwater, I'm telling you, that water was deep, y'all, and I'm a swimmer. And they have a sign to where you cannot even if you're a good swimmer, they tell you not to swim deep in southeast Florida or any of the beaches in West Florida because the water is so not a joke, even if you're a good swimmer. Let's continue.
Florida, hurricanes that pass through the Caribbean are more likely to stay at sea longer and begin curling upward in the U.S. towards South and North Carolina. Now,
oh, did you hear that, North Carolina? Did you hear that? If it comes from the Caribbean, it goes to South and North Carolina. Let me rewind what the lady said.
If you want to stay as safe,
hold on. And that's not a good thing either, because North Carolina, for the most part, deals with a lot more adversity than certain parts of Florida. I'm not doing it's no dissing. I'm just telling you what the lady is talking about, because this is needed, y'all. This is needed. Here, let's hear it again.
hurricanes that pass through the Caribbean are more likely to stay at sea longer and begin curling upward in the U.S. towards South and North Carolina. Now,
is she lying? She's not lying. So the point is, when North Carolina got hit, it came from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, east side of Cuba, and it swooped past the northeast Florida, and then it hit Georgia, and then it hit South and North Carolina the hardest too. So we all, listen, at the end of the day, depending on where you stay in North Carolina, I have to say that. The point is, anywhere from Carolina to Florida, you are prone to deal with a hurricane. And if you're not in an area that's not prone, all praises to the Most High. Most people prefer the West Florida because it's more beautiful, it's more interesting than it is on East Florida. This is why I'm told by Floridians. That said, I'm doing a video about places to live. So she's telling you places to live and what are the worst places to live. Okay? So if you thought about Northeast Florida, it's only 26 hurricanes. She's going to explain about Central Florida in a second, which is about the same or least. All right? Let's continue.
Now, if you want to stay as safe as possible from hurricanes, but still want to reap the benefits of being a Florida resident, then head up the middle of Florida near the Georgia border. And that is the best place to live as far as the least hurricane-prone area of Florida. Since this area is not directly on Florida's Atlantic or Gulf Coast, they typically don't take direct hits in the form of 120.
That's true. The border between Georgia and Florida is the best spot. Let's see what she say. Let's listen.
Mile per hour winds. Instead, they get calmer winds when hurricanes hit. However, there's not a lot going on in that area. I mean, it's extremely rural and quiet, which may be what you want. So where does Orlando fit into all of this? Well, Orlando sits at 82 feet above sea level.
82 feet above sea level. Listen.
And nearby Orlando, one of our suburbs is Claremont, which is very hilly. There's lots of hills in Claremont. And
that is true. I've been to Claremont a lot of times.
Actually, there's a height of 305 feet above sea level. And
that is correct.
That area. So even though we did get hit with some really heavy rains and winds in the recent Hurricane Ian, of course, we got some flooding in specific areas that came.
That is south. That is south of Central Florida, Naples. Naples is going towards, hold on a second. I think it's, my goodness. Naples is south. It's going towards, hold on, let me look at my phone real quick. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. I have to, hold on a second. Naples is, I know it's not north of Florida. Hold on. Naples. Hold on a second. Florida. Let me see. Let me get the map ready. Hold on 1 second, y'all. I'm going to do it right now. Naples is West Florida, y'all. Naples is West Florida. Okay. Yeah, I know. I know I ain't set tripping. Naples is West Florida. Okay. So she's not talking about Central Florida. Naples is West Florida. All right. That guy hit the hardest. Naples is West Florida. That's not near Orlando. Let's continue.
With that really heavy rain, Orlando is classified as one of the least prone cities for hurricanes in all of
The least prone cities to have hurricanes is Orlando. That is a fact. That is a fact. Let me rewind the tape. Naples got hit the worst in West Florida, and then you're going to hear what she said about Orlando. Here we go.
we got some flooding in specific areas that came with that really heavy rain. Orlando is classified as one of the least prone cities for hurricanes in all of Florida. That is why when Mr. Disney decided to open Disney World in Orlando, he did a lot of research about Orlando.
And that is true. When they opened up Disney, why did they choose Comiskey, Florida? Because he did his research and he looked at what's prone, because there's a lot of activity that goes on over there. At the same time, that is a good statement that this lady said. Let's rewind it again. I want y'all to hear this.
With that really heavy rain, Orlando is classified as one of the least prone cities for hurricanes in all of Florida. That is why when Mr. Disney decided to open Disney World in Orlando, he did a lot of research about Orlando weather, and he decided, it was more safe to make Orlando the home of a mouse. Orlando is right in the center of Florida, 60 miles away from the coastline. So by the time the storm reaches inland, it's usually nothing more than strong winds and heavy rainfall. In fact, many coastal areas evacuate to Orlando. So if a tropical storm does...
Many evacuees evacuate to Orlando. Did you hear what the lady said? Let's rewind it again.
So by the time the storm reaches inland, it's usually nothing more than strong winds and heavy rainfall. In fact, many coastal areas evacuate to Orlando. So if a tropical storm does develop, hurricanes can be detected well in advance with storm trackers and has advanced.
Okay. They be on point with the tracker. So you see, it gets from a 1, it picks up to a 4, it goes to a 3, and by the time it hits inland, it hits 1. By the time it reaches Georgia, it's just torrential swaying and wind. Now, let's continue. You see the winds on the west? Do y'all see it? Do you see the winds on the west and the southeast get hit the most? Once it hits, Central Florida and the northeast of Florida, the winds are very low. Let's continue.
Warning systems and plenty of TV and radio alerts to keep you updated. So you might be wondering, how many times has Disney closed for hurricanes in Orlando? Surprisingly, just a handful of times, a total of 8 times since 1999. Before Ian, it had been 5 years since Disney had a closure due to a hurricane. So having lived in Florida, specifically Orlando, for 35 years, I've been through a few hurricanes here and there. And for the most part, mostly we get some trees that fall, branches that fall.
Yeah, that's about it. Trees fall, branches fall, and that stuff be picked up within a day or two. All right, let's continue.
A lot of that type of debris, and some people do lose shingles on their roofs and have some minor flooding. So this hurricane was an exception with the amount of flooding that hit in certain areas like Kissimmee and downtown Orlando. My heart breaks for them. In 35 years, the most challenging hurricane that I went through was Hurricane Charlie, and that was back in 2004. During that
Hurricane Charlie,
that hurricane, we lost power for almost a week in the downtown area, and that was
lost power for a week. Now, when you go in North Carolina, further up, they lose power longer than a week. Let's continue.
It's really a long and painful delay. Some parts of Orlando didn't lose power at all, and
not every part of North Carolina, so I want to make that clear. The point is, that Florida picks up the pace when it comes to dealing with disasters a little bit more. You get a little bit more clarity than you probably would in other states. It's not to say other states don't do their part. It's just something about Florida that you know what you get yourself into. You just want to make what's best for you and your family, or a person that may not have a family. So I get it. I'm glad that you brothers and sisters, wanted me, since I've been talking about Florida, brother in the truth, like, you're going to do a video about it. I'm doing a video about it now. Everybody wants to hear my part. Now I'm letting y'all hear the lady is confirming what I'm saying. This is my first time hearing this lady. I heard about her. And honestly, Mrs. Kathy Williams got a YouTube channel, and she's very known in Orlando. So she's in the business of real estate. So what better person to listen to besides me being there for 2 years, going to be back, returning back, than a person that's been there for 35 years to give you the answer. So now 2 witnesses in the Bible agree. That means it's true. Let's continue.
The cool thing is, since then, when there's a hurricane coming, it's so amazing to see all the linemen who drive from all over the U.S. and they descend on our fair state to help people get their power back on. And
did you hear that? What I just talked about. Within a week, the most, everything's back up online. Now, not every place have these things. There's certain parts of Florida that the grid is underground, okay? Let's continue.
Just a day or two. It's just really heartwarming to see how they all just join forces and come down here. And you will just see trucks from as far as north as Indiana, Ohio, they all come down to help. So since 2004, we haven't had any.
You have people as far as Ohio. It goes to show you that even people that come from far distance have a love for Florida. And then people laugh and mock Florida, yet and still people from all over just go crazy when they go down there. Let's continue.
Any bad hurricane issues until Hurricane Ian. So that's almost 20 years since Orlando saw extreme circumstances. So that's why I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Such a great area to live. And I feel like
she said she can't imagine living anywhere else. Oh man, I gotta hear that again. I gotta hear this from the lady. Hold on, y'all. This is interesting.
Till Hurricane Ian. So that's almost 20 years since Orlando saw extreme circumstances. So that's why I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Such a great area to live. And I feel like anywhere you live, you're going to have some type of weather occurrence. Maybe up north, you might have snow or blizzard.
Oh, no, she said it. Oh, no, she said it. Ooh. Oh, that's true, though. That's true. Hey, that's another thing that goes on in certain states. Y'all still got to deal with snow, even if you live in the South. If you in Tennessee, if you're in North Carolina, northward of Georgia, South Carolina, y'all get snow. Y'all get snow. We don't get snow in Florida. So that's another thing that people don't talk about. Man, no, I can't do it, man. Dealing with that snow, dealing with that 20-degree weather. Your hands freezing. You out there in Georgia, y'all wearing hoodies. Y'all in the 30-degree weather, y'all wearing hoodies, y'all wearing gloves. And then y'all see me in the video. I got a short sleeve. I may have a, light hoodie on in Florida. Oh man, she's going in a good way.
And they have power outages from that. You know, there's tornadoes in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Sometimes with these blizzards, you're not able to leave your house for days on end. And so, you know, what do you think? Is it worth living in Orlando to enjoy our amazing weather and put up with the occasional hurricane?
Ooh, sis, you didn't have to do that to them. Oh no, you didn't have to do that, Mrs. Kathy Williams. Oh man, I miss y'all, Florida, man. Shout out to North Carolina. Shout out to South Carolina. Shout out to Georgia. My goodness, sis, you didn't have. Oh my goodness, I gotta hear that again. Oh, you was them Floridian women, man. They'd be telling it. You want to be in that cold climate? You want to deal with this, or would you rather deal with where I'm at? Oh man, this is funny. Let's listen
These
again.
blizzards, you're not able to leave your house for days on end. And so, you know, what do you think? Is it worth living in Orlando to enjoy our amazing weather and put up with the occasional hurricane? Comment below. Let me know what you think. You know, you always want to prepare for a hurricane, regardless of the intensity of it. And with that, it's important to have home insurance, of course. And even though most policies have a 2% hurricane deductible, you definitely want to check your policy and check your coverage and just be sure what you have. And also be aware that whenever a hurricane forms, insurance companies stop taking policies. So you can't wait for a hurricane to come and get a policy.
I agree with that. That's why I was telling Zach that it costs a lot for the policy. It's worth paying for it because if anything was to happen, you don't want to do last minute things. So, all right. I'm going to open up the panel. If y'all want to come on and have the conversation, I see Brainwaves in the house. Brother Brainwaves, are you busy? I would love Brother Brainwaves to come on. Any brothers in the truth want to come on? Anybody that have any questions, I'm going to open up the panel right now. Thank y'all for liking the video. Thank you so much. Shout out to the brothers in the truth. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know who you are, man. Y'all wanted me to talk about this. I'm talking about it right now. So the link is in the chat, y'all. Wow. Running Up 360 says, facts, hurricanes strengthen in warm waters, usually despite on land. He says many people have backup generators as well. Of course, we have a Floridian in the house. The person said Palm Beach County, located in southeast Florida, don't flood as much of near Broward County. That's true. That person said everywhere was bad this year around the country. Tornado was bad, torn places up. I live in West Palm Beach. Yeah. And Naples is south of Fort Myers, correct. Golden said, yeah, my brother told me this. Okay. Yeah. Hurricanes is normally from North Carolina to South Carolina and Florida, sometimes in Georgia, sometimes it hits Georgia. Georgia deal with more tornadoes. You know what's crazy? Georgia deal with more tornadoes than hurricanes. That's why I want to have Brainwaves to come on if he's not busy, to hit the link. We got Lady D Davis in the house. How you doing? I already talked about Jacksonville. Yeah, so you thinking about moving to Jacksonville, Lady D Davis? You thinking about moving to Jacksonville? Running Up 360, man. I thought you moving to Florida. What's going on? Running Up 360, you moving to Florida still? Yeah, so I'm glad the lady confirmed what I said. You know what I'm saying? Because it's good to have a testimony. You know, she had me rolling in a good way. And she talked about some things that made a lot of sense what I talked about. You know what I'm saying? So try not try not live. If you want to live near the coastal lines, I would advise it to be from Jacksonville to Daytona Beach, because more likely you may not deal with too much of it. And they have upgraded their border and the beach homes and stuff like that. Yeah, people have upgraded their stuff. One thing I know about Floridians, they know how to make adjustments very fast, very, very fast. The next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute. We know a storm just hit within a year, or sometimes less than a year, it's back to normal. Because you got people coming from different places willing to participate. They want to be away from the cold climate. They want to be away from that, sneak snow. So they give them an opportunity to be in the Sunshine State. It is what it is. So it seems like nobody want to come on. All right. Well, thank y'all for liking the video. I appreciate that. If this content really resonates, if you have any other questions about Florida, y'all can reach out to me. Shout out to the Floridians that's tuning into the channel. Those who are not from Florida tuning into the channel. If this really helped, make sure you share it with your peoples, So shout out to the other states, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and stuff like that. She says, my family live at the border of Jacksonville. Well, I would suggest, since you work in the ambulance, right? You can make the transition down there to Jacksonville. And honestly, Lady D Davis, this is no cap, I rarely see ambulances in Orlando going crazy or Jacksonville go crazy. It's like the helicopters do more of the work. Not to say ambulance don't do work, because the ambulance training in Florida is more serious than you probably do in New York City. And I'm going to explain why. Because you're dealing with nature. So not only you dealing with people, I think the ambulance deals with other things besides people. I can't get into all specifics. Yeah, you got to be in top shape to work in Florida, y'all. I'm not going to hold y'all. When I see my brothers and sisters, ambulance, and ooh, Lord, the sisters, and oh my Lord. Oh man, let me behave myself on the internet. Ooh, the women in, oh Lord. I remember when I was working at the specific hospital and I seen this ambulance sister. I said, oh my goodness. Oh, you have to be on point, because they do intense training. Shout out to the New York ambulance. No, I'm not disrespecting the New York ambulance, because y'all deal with a lot. Yet in the training in Florida, you gotta swim. You gotta get a swimming certificate. It's more than saving people's lives. You gotta go do swimming. You gotta go through the woods. It's a lot of exercise. Because even the fire department ones, they have to do a lot of training. So if you're serious about that, going to Jacksonville, and remember now, it may not be that, you may get paid a little bit less, yet and still, you will get more for your dollar because there's no state tax. So, hey, something to look into, Lady D Davis, if you plan on moving to Florida. You're tuning into Floridian Rollo. I'm your host, Floridian Rollo. Thank you all for tuning in to the show, to this classic, I thank y'all for participating. If you want to send something to the Cash App, you already know what it is. I did not put my Cash App in. Y'all know by now the Cash App. So, hey, that's pretty much about it. I'm going to get on out of here. You tune in to Floridian Rollo. I'm signing off. Let me play this jam on my way out. Let's see what you're saying. Born and raised in West Palm Beach, Florida, hurricane not damaged, not that bad I experienced in the city. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, my Floridians, for tuning in and, also letting the people know what's going on as well. You get what I'm saying? You mistyped? So what you meant then? Lady D. Davis saying LOL. you know I don't want to get in good trouble right now, Lady D. Davis. It's so many of you fine ambulance women. It's so many of you fine ambulance women in New York City at the same time in Florida. I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta be on point now because I'm at the site. Them ambulance ladies don't play in Florida. Them Floridian ambulance ladies. Oh man, she'll have 10 people watching your car. She'll have a steakhouse. Shoot. My God. She like, you don't put a good thing on me, and next thing you know, you got some other lady. You better not have no other lady. I'm going to put you in that hospital bill now. Don't play around with them ambulance ladies, fellas. Man. Shoot, man. Next thing you know, you be tied to that ambulance vehicle. You like waking up. You like, babes, why I'm attached to this ambulance thing? What did I do? And she put a steakhouse report on you. Oh, I'm just having fun, y'all. I'm having fun, y'all. I'm just having fun, y'all. See, one thing about the sisters, they know I'm having fun about this in a good way. So, with that said, y'all, I'm gonna get on out of here. Yeah. Appreciate y'all tuning into the show. Until next time, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.